Hey folks, David here on the Vintage Future. Real quick, I'm selling these. Actually, not selling them. I'm giving them away. So by the time you see this video, they'll be long gone, on to a new home. But just wanted to let you know what these look like and kind of why I'm moving them on. I think for what they are, these Meermin Balmoral boots are actually really good value. But for me, they just weren't super comfortable. And that's totally subjective. Like, I think other people have said they're uncomfortable, but other people have said that they are very comfortable. So it just depends on your foot. Sometimes you try a product and it works. Sometimes you try a product and it doesn't. I could have pushed through because sometimes it's just that you need to break a boot in more. But in this case, they were not just uncomfortable. They were literally hurting my feet. So I just was like, this has to move on. So pretty good value though. Like, if you look at this, you're going to see a lot of good things. I mean, overall, pretty nice stuff. Like, the stitch work isn't horrible. Some places, it is a little bit. Like, this little thing right here, that's not great. Things like that. But overall, like, everything is as it should be. Probably the worst thing, honestly, other than the comfort, is see the clicking. Like, on a nice calf boot like this that's supposed to be for formal events, you really don't want coarse grain like this. So they're not really clicking the best calf, which for the price point, it's like, duh. But yeah, that looks pretty crappy for a formal boot, right? Like, yeah, you really want something nicer. But it's not horrible all over. Like, the toe caps are great. All this back here. It's just some of these flex areas, it's just not the worst I've seen, It's not horrible. Like, you could wear this and nobody's going to look at you at a wedding or a funeral and be like, oh my goodness, those are horrible shoes. What are you wearing? But they're definitely not anywhere close to as nice as they could be or really should be for, if you want to look your best. But yeah, everything else is good. Like, these are seated really firmly. The hardware is good. The laces I originally got snapped the first time I wore them. I don't know if everyone has that experience, but apparently they use cheap laces. But easy enough to get new laces. I got new laces. I like how all the hardware is covered by the lining here. These are a size 9. Maybe I sized too small. Maybe it was my fault that they weren't comfortable. I'm a 10.5 Brannick, but my overall length is a 10. They say to go down one size because that's a UK size, so should be the equivalent of a US 10. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's my fault, but they just were never comfortable. That's not great. This right here, it's not a big deal. You can burn that off, but it just shows that obviously this is not the top end of dress footwear. But, for the price you're paying, I mean, man, Meermin's a great buy. So if you buy them and you try them and, they fit you well and they're comfortable, man, what a steal, right? So I intentionally didn't get a leather sole because I'm active at work. I work at a church. We do a lot of memorials. So I need to look good, but I also need to be able to move around and not slip if I'm carrying like a stage monitor or something heavy. So the grip of this sole is great. But yeah, and it was a cushy sole and everything. Comfy. Everything looks good. That you can see the flat welt there. Everything's nice except for some of those things I pointed out. So anyways, yeah, that's just a quick look at that. I think the Balmoral boot was a really sharp look. Kind of had like James Bond vibes about it. I don't know. I really liked wearing them. So yeah, think about switching it up. Instead of wearing like black cap toe Oxfords like everybody, get something interesting like a black Balmoral boot or whatever. And by the way, the Balmoral, what makes it a Balmoral is that in cutting the pattern, this panel right here goes all the way around like this. That's what makes it a Balmoral. And then what makes it like an Oxford is this Oxford lacing style where it's like a slit here as opposed to these. This is a derby, right? It's got these two flaps. That's what we're used to seeing. Well, an Oxford is this like big V slit right there. That's what makes it an Oxford, and that's considered more formal. For formal wear, you're really not supposed to wear derbies, which most people these days in California anyways do regardless, but you're supposed to wear like an Oxford style something. And if you wear the Balmoral, whether it's a boot or a shoe, that's considered like even more formal. So yeah, kind of a great deal. So that's the deal. They're going to live in a happy new home, and I wish them the best. But that's just a quick look at Meermin. I think it's a great place to look for some value. One of my friends JG Bashlau. I think that's how you say it. On the Discord, he's JG 001, I think. JGB 001 or something like that. He has this strategy where you buy kind of a cheaper shoe if you just want to try a new style. You don't spend a lot of money. If you're like, man, I've never had a wingtip. Instead of buying like a $500 wingtip, buy like a $50 wingtip. Wear it for a while. If you're like, yeah, I really do love wearing wingtips, then you can go buy the expensive one. And I just thought that was a great strategy. Sometimes you jump all the way in, but sometimes you go cheap first. And this is not what I meant to do with this, but I guess it's sort of like what ended up happening. It turns out I really love this style, and so who knows, maybe I'll get one in the future. But for now, it's moving on to a new home. So yeah, check out Meermin, Mallorca. And till next time, let your boots take you to places more important than the boots themselves.